It was a brutal winter in the town of Hallow Pines, where snow blanketed everything in thick, suffocating silence. The Turner family, Mark, his wife Laura, and their son Ethan, had moved into their new home just 2 weeks before Christmas. The house was massive, Victorian, and eerily cheap. The townsfolk avoided it. Some claimed the house was haunted. Others warned of strange happenings that defied logic. But Mark Turner, a pragmatic man, waved off the rumors. A good deal was a good deal. On their first night, Ethan noticed something odd. A door he hadn't seen before at the end of a long hallway. The frosted glass shimmered faintly, its edges lined with thin icicles. Despite the roaring fire in the living room, "Mom, Dad, come see this," Ethan called out, standing in front of the door. Mark and Laura exchanged uneasy glances as they joined their son. "That's odd," Laura muttered. "I don't remember seeing this during the walkthrough." Mark reached out to touch the door handle, but the moment his fingers brushed it, he yanked his hand back. "It's freezing cold," he exclaimed, shaking his hand. The three of them stared at the door, its frosted surface faintly glowing under the dim hallway light. Mark finally shrugged. "It's probably just some draft. We'll have a look after Christmas." But Ethan couldn't stop staring. Something about the door felt alive. That night, as the Turners settled into bed, Ethan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The frosted door kept creeping into his thoughts. Why was it there? Why was it so cold? Curiosity gnawed at him until he couldn't take it anymore. Quietly, he slipped out of bed, grabbed a flashlight, and crept into the hallway. The door seemed to shimmer more brightly in the dark, as though it had been waiting for him. Ethan hesitated, but then he reached for the handle. To his surprise, it was no longer icy. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow, spiral staircase descending into darkness. A cold draft hit him, carrying the faint smell of pine and something metallic. "Hello," Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. There was no answer, only silence. With trembling hands, he stepped onto the staircase, the wood groaning under his weight. At the bottom, he found a small, circular room. The walls were lined with frost, and at the center stood an ornate chest, its surface covered in ice. Ethan approached the chest, his breath fogging in the freezing air. Slowly, he opened it. Inside was a snow globe. It depicted a perfect replica of their house, surrounded by frosted pine trees. But something was wrong. The tiny house in the globe wasn't festive or cheerful. The windows were shattered. The roof was caved in, and a shadowy figure stood at the front door. As Ethan held the snow globe, the room grew even colder. Whispers filled the air, faint and indistinct, like voices carried by the wind. Terrified, Ethan slammed the chest shut and bolted back upstairs, leaving the door wide open. The next morning, Ethan woke up to find frost creeping along the edges of his bedroom window. He tried to tell his parents about the frosted door and the snow globe, but they dismissed it as a bad dream. That's when the strange occurrences began. The Christmas tree lights flickered and buzzed, casting distorted shadows on the walls. The fireplace refused to stay lit, and the air in the house grew unnaturally cold. Then, late at night, the noises started. Faint knocking, soft at first, but growing louder with each passing hour. Mark, irritated and skeptical, tried to explain it away. "It's just the old wood settling," he insisted. But Laura wasn't so sure. One night, as she lay in bed, she heard whispers, soft, overlapping voices coming from the hallway. She stepped out of the room, and there it was again, the frosted door glowing faintly, as if inviting her to come closer. "Mark," she whispered, shaking him awake. "Something's wrong with that door." Reluctantly, Mark got up and followed her to the hallway. The door was now covered in thick frost, the edges lined with jagged icicles. And then, to their horror, it started to rattle. "We're getting out of here," Mark said, grabbing Laura's arm. But when they tried to leave, the front door wouldn't budge. No matter how hard they pulled, it was as if the house itself refused to let them go. Desperate, Ethan finally admitted to opening the door and finding the snow globe. Mark and Laura demanded to see it, but when they returned to the circular room, the chest was gone. In its place was the snow globe, resting on a pedestal of ice. Inside the globe, the tiny replica of their house was now completely covered in frost, and the shadowy figure had moved. It now stood in the upstairs window, staring directly at them. Laura gasped, "What is that thing?" The air grew colder, and the whispers turned into guttural moans. The frost on the walls began to spread, creeping toward them like a living thing. Suddenly, the frosted door slammed shut behind them, and the shadowy figure from the snow globe began to materialize in the room. It was tall, skeletal, and shrouded in tattered robes of ice. Its face was hollow, its eyes glowing like cold embers. "You opened the door," it rasped, its voice echoing like breaking ice. "And now the curse is yours." Mark grabbed a chair and hurled it at the creature, but it passed right through. The figure raised its hand, and the frost overtook the room. "What do you want from us?" Laura screamed. The creature gestured toward the snow globe. "Your home, your souls, they are mine now." Mark lunged for the snow globe, smashing it against the pedestal. For a moment, the whisper stopped and the frost receded. But then the figure let out a deafening shriek. The house shook violently, and everything went black. The next morning, the Turner's house stood eerily silent. Neighbors reported seeing frost-covered windows and hearing faint whispers carried by the wind. The Turners were never seen again. But on the mantel of the frosted room, a new snow globe appeared, a perfect replica of the house, now completely engulfed in frost. Inside, 3 tiny figures could be seen, a man, a woman, and a boy, frozen in place. So, the next time you come across a mysterious door or an old trinket during the holidays, think twice before you let curiosity take over. Some doors should remain closed, and some gifts are meant to be curses. This was a frosted door, a Christmas curse. Sleep well, and don't let the frost creep in